Hey everyone, I'm Eric. This is my wife Julie. This is our friend Lisa from the Chick Crew. And today we have a doozy for you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a pretty traumatic and intense situation that her blended family went through and how they were able to kind of get past it and come full circle, and just some life lessons about tit for tat with your children, because that is a hard thing to overcome and navigate when you're trying to love these kids and show up for these kids and compare these kids. So we're going to get into it.
And we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the blended family, I feel like, than we normally do. We get into the dynamics a little bit deeper. So
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, you guys, welcome back to part 2 of Lisa's story. So part 2 is where this gets, I would say, very interesting.
Oh,
Wouldn't you
interesting is
say?
the.
I think interesting.
What word comes to mind for you?
I would say intense.
Intense?
Yeah.
So we're just jumping right into it. So last week we talked about you having a blended family. You have how many kids between the two of you?
4.
4 kids.
2 boys, 2 girls.
Yeah. And your 2 are older, grown up.
Mm-hmm.
His 2 are younger, teenagers in the house. And you guys had a major event go down. How long ago?
Well, it was right after we moved in together.
Okay, so.
Before you were married?
Yes.
No wonder you were saying maybe this won't work, or
Yes.
it's a coming to Jesus moment. Like, what do we do?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, where are you, Jesus? Because
Where are you, Jesus
something-
moment? No.
I don't know if I can deal with this one. And it was kind of interesting because, as I spoke of before, my husband had relinquished the communication aspect of getting involved, getting in between myself and the stepkids about things. So this situation was so big, I think so intense, that he didn't even know how to begin to deal with it.
Yeah.
So thank
So then
God you were there.
So then I was the lead
Awesome.
again, and
Yeah.
this was very much uncharted territory, uncharted waters for me. I was like, I don't.
Yeah, this
So-
is well, let's get into it. So this is something that people only hear about on the news.
And it was on the news.
Oh, there's that.
Truth be told.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we had been living together, I want to say less than a year. And my stepson was on a private group page or whatever on Facebook.
Like a chat room or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Okay.
And with a couple other guys. And they had some dark humor. And it was around the time of those incredible school shootings. I mean, national attention. Everybody was, up in arms, and
Right.
I mean, just awful, right?
Right.
Just complete, total sensitivity about that. And they were joking around in this chat room, and there were some memes that they had created and pictures. I think kind of making fun, but it was just not presented. I think it was with that teenager mentality, and it was
Yeah, they're just not thinking
They
things
weren't
through.
thinking.
or-
Teenagers
filter.
are insensitive humans. I can attest.
yes,
We
and
have, we have a few of them. And your kid or your stepson and his friends and all them are into airsoft and paintball or whatever,
all that.
anything.
Yes, and
they're into guns.
Since the day I met my stepson, he's been all about the
Right.
military. He knows everything there is to know about every
Okay.
gun, you name it.
Was his dad in the military?
No,
Really?
Nope.
Interesting.
it's
Okay.
just his thing.
Okay.
He's in the military now,
Is he?
which is very interesting. Yeah, he's
Okay.
finishing his 4-year tour. He'll be done.
Well,
this year.
that's awesome.
Well,
Yes.
thanks
Thank
for
you
service.
for your service
Absolutely.
wherever you're
Yeah.
at.
That's
Thank you,
right.
Rivas. Thank
Yeah,
you.
he's overseas right now, but yes.
Yeah.
Talk about full circle.
I-
That's beautiful
totally.
redemption story. Continue.
Yes.
though.
So anyway, long story short, there was somebody that was monitoring this room because of someone else
Okay.
in the group.
Was this other person in trouble or?
They had been in trouble, and there was
Okay.
somebody monitoring, their
social media activity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that person that was being monitored didn't do anything wrong, but my stepson did.
So
And
Creating this meme.
right. And it was just a little too close to home.
right.
And they viewed it as a threat to a local high school
Oh.
and that he was attending
Yeah.
at the time. I think he was a junior.
Hmm.
And so literally, they stopped, drop, and rolled, went down to the high school, arrested him,
Yeah.
threw him in juvenile hall. And that night, I mean, of course, we're doing our thing.
Right.
Nobody's talking to us.
Right.
And
Yeah, you guys are at work,
well,
right?
right.
And
Where did this
unbeknownst.
happen? So there was a meme made by your stepson, and it was on a group chat. And are you able to give us a context of what the meme was? I mean, I know you probably
was-
don't even.
it was in, I do remember.
Oh, you do.
I do very
I guess
clearly.
something is big.
Yes.
Yes.
she can
Yes,
see it in her
because
head right
I'm
now.
like,
Thank you very much.
Why did you do that?
Right.
But it was kind of mocking some of those school shootings that had happened.
Okay.
And basically it was mimicking and referencing a type of artillery rifle
Okay.
that could have done
A better job?
a better job.
Yeah.
Mm.
More
And-
thorough job.
Right.
Okay.
And
So
again, let me say this again,
Yeah.
dark humor,
yeah.
not funny by
Right.
any stretch, but still.
And not, I mean, not to make light of this at all, but not even a pointed threat.
No.
I just want to. I want to say that for him
No.
too. Like it wasn't that he was like, "This is
Right.
what I'm going to do, and this is my plan, and I'm going to carry it out."
Correct.
This was just like in dark humor fun,
that's-
and like this is what
Yes.
what an idiot.
Right.
He could have used this type of a thing.
Right.
And this
Which
is,
is
but that's not how
insensitive.
the authorities took it, right?
No, because it was a reference. It was a direct reference to the high school that he attended. So
Oh.
there was too much of a
Connection.
clear path.
Okay.
Like there was a possibility,
Right.
and due to that possibility, and fresh on the heels of these
Oh,
shootings, and such, it
everyone's
was just like,
hypersensitive to it for
wrong
sure.
answer. So they went in for the kill, and arrested him. And so in the afternoon, we get the notification that he's been arrested and that he's in juvenile hall. And my then boyfriend, the father, is like, I don't even understand what's going on.
Right.
And he calls me, and I'm like, okay, I'll meet you there, And so we meet, and we're talking to the officers and such. And anyway, they're telling us what the showdown's going to be. He's
Right.
going to be in juvenile hall. There's going to be a court hearing and blah, blah, blah. We said, okay, all right, got it. And so we're trying to process it. I don't even think we were able to, I don't know for sure, but what I remember, we weren't able to visit him day one.
Okay.
But his dad, my boyfriend at the time, he was having a very hard time with it. He was
I
very
would
disappointed in his
imagine.
son. He was very mad at the system because he thought this is ridiculous. This is what he meant. I know my son
Would never do this.
never
Yeah.
do this in a million years, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, yeah, but you understand that was a terrible joke. Terrible joke.
Poor taste and all
Poor
the
taste,
things.
no
yeah.
filter. It was just dumb. And so anyway, long story short, he was dealing with it and not dealing with it very well.
Right.
And he's like, I'm not going to go see him. And I'm thinking, but we have to go see him.
Okay, we're
He's
his
been
parents.
arrested.
You're his
He's a
parents, yeah.
minor, and he's been
Yeah.
arrested, and he's scared.
Right.
And regardless of how stupid it was, which I'll be first to tell him and hit him over the head when I see him,
Right.
come on, we have to have some compassion here and some empathy. And so there were, I think, 2 days that went by, and he's like, I'm not going.
Really?
And I said, I am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. And I'm not saying that I'm holier than thou here. I'm just saying that from a mother's standpoint, again, I tell all the kids, I will take a bullet for you. And in return, all I want is respect.
Right.
I mean, this is the time to take the bullet. I mean, I need to go down there and check in with him and see how he's doing,
Right.
and he was distraught.
Did your husband go with you?
No.
So you did. You made that
I
first
went-
trip all by yourself.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
I love that you equate that to taking a bullet, because what a real life perspective, because taking a bullet, that rarely happens, literally speaking.
Right.
But this is like, that is it. This is taking a bullet. This is you stepping up in an uncomfortable, hard situation and showing up even when the bio parent can't.
Right.
That's huge.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, again, out of love, one thing I learned was if you do everything with a sense of love in it, and I kept thinking about how this, his mom wasn't present, and I kept thinking how this was going to influence him. And, he needed some support.
Right.
For sure.
Right or wrong, he needed some support. And so, anyway, I went, we had a very nice visit. I mean, basically, he cried the whole time. It was so sad.
Oh, I bet. So how scary.
He was
How
very
scary.
scared. And
So
God,
was he that type of kid where you were like, when you got the phone call, you're like, I knew this was coming one day. Was he that type of kid to begin with? Like, where he had red flags?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was always on the edge.
Okay. I'm like, we have some friends that have a son that has friends like that, where we're like, we're going to hear about this kid on the news one day. You know what I mean?
I mean, he wasn't always in trouble, but I think he was always on the edge. Like you put your foot over, put your toe over.
Oh,
dip
boundaries.
it, dip it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a good kid. I mean, he wasn't like partaking in alcohol or anything in hhigh school. He wasn't that kind of thing. He wasn't great.
Was he
in
getting in
school.
fights or anything like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So anyway, visited him, came back, gave the report. I said, you got to go see him.
Right.
I'm sorry, but you got to put your feelings aside. Whatever's going on with you, you got to support your kid.
Okay.
He needs you. And so we went back the next day together.
Right.
But they kept him in juvenile hall. I think it was and of course this was literally 7 years ago, I think.
Okay. So a while ago.
Yeah. And so I don't really recall crystal clear the details, but I want to say they kept him for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it was
That's
an
a
abnormally
long time.
abnormally long time for them to keep him, which was really hard. But I asked him, I said, you need to journal this. You need to really write things down every day and just,
call it a journal.
Do whatever you can. Yeah. And do whatever you can to process. Yeah. So, so then they released him. And then they started expulsion proceedings at school because they were just like, unacceptable.
Right.
We don't want you back. You're a risk.
He was a junior in high school at this time?
Yeah, I think he was a junior.
Okay.
And we worked it so hard to try and, have them retain him, but they just wouldn't have it. So they expelled him, and then he went to basically continuation school.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
So he actually got his college, or his high school.
His GED, yeah, or
Okay,
his high school
yeah.
diploma, yeah. And he did very well, actually.
Nice.
Which was another thing that was kind of amazing because that wasn't his thing before. But then they slapped an ankle bracelet on him.
For how long?
Monitoring bracelet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, a long time. 6 months.
Oh, jeez.
And
Okay.
he could not leave the house. It was just like house and school, or
House and school, home. And then he had a job, and so then it was like, okay, now what? And they said, okay, house, work, home. And
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it went further than that. You guys actually had.
Yeah, so we had gone out to dinner. This was the next night, I think.
Mhm.
We had gone out to dinner the next night with some friends, and had a bottle of wine or 4, I don't remember. But anyway, we were home having a good time, and I think we were watching TV, and there was a knock on the door, and this was like at 8:30 at night,
Right.
and we opened the door, and there's 4 or 5 cops at the front door, and I'm like, "What's up?"
Yeah, event already happened. What's
Yeah,
up?
instant buzzkill. And I'm like, what's the deal here? And they're like, we have a warrant to search your house. And I said, search it for what?
Right.
Anything
Yeah.
that has to do with him, possibly doing any type of attack or any type of, community security issues, whatever.
Right.
And so, I mean, I got up at one point to go into my bedroom, and he said, you cannot move. You have to sit right here with this officer until we're finished. And I'm like, all right. So now I'm angry.
Right. Was it like the movies where they just throw everything everywhere? And
Oh,
don't clean
yeah.
up? Was it?
Oh, yeah.
They
No
don't
way.
clean them
Okay.
after
No,
themselves.
they do not. They do not. And they were looking for stuff. They were looking for anything. They interpreted stuff that was just crazy. That was like, oh, this was intention. I'm like, you're crazy. That was insane.
It was a highlighter.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So
got
anyway,
stories.
yeah. And so we went through all that. And I got very angry. And we have, we all shoot guns. We all have, we
Right.
possess guns, and we appropriately house them.
Right.
We had a nice, very nice gun case in the garage, of which it was locked, and
Responsible gun
we had
owners.
very responsible gun.
Right.
Everything was registered, but we would all go shooting, here and there. And I just bought a brand new shotgun, and they seized all of our guns, and that was I'm not kidding you, that was I just got my rifle back now, and that was what did I say, 7 years ago? Just now
Wow.
got my rifle back, and it was a harrowing process to do.
You said your husband's still,
he's
still
got
hasn't-
5 or 6 guns out, yeah.
and he still
Still.
doesn't have them back?
No.
Wow, that's right. So they take this stuff seriously.
Oh, yeah, there's no mess
Yeah.
around.
How during all of this, how did you and your husband cope with it? Because now this is his kid, this is your step kid. It almost sounds like you almost did a little bit better with the initial, like, all right, like we have to act on this. But how did you guys as a couple and a team work through this? How was it that, I feel like if you guys were in reverse roles, it would have been like, I'm out. I can't deal with this. I'm done. Get away. Like, I just can't deal with this. How did you guys work through this as a couple?
It took a lot, because I think that my husband was initially as disappointed as he was in his son in doing what he did. He was also very frustrated with the system, because,
Oh, yeah.
of course, he's coming from being in the know. Nobody knew his son better than he.
Right.
But it was like, okay, but you understand, they don't know him this way, and what he did was pretty intense. I mean, it was
Right.
very inappropriate. And he was negating that, saying, oh, they made a big deal out of nothing. And I agree to a certain degree. But the point is, we had to do due process.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So we had a lot of discussions about that and what was going to happen afterwards when he got out. And, because then after the ankle bracelet, or whatever the hell you call it, the monitoring thing around his ankle,
Right.
once they removed that, then there was parole. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a parole officer that was assigned to him.
How old was he at this age when it happened?
It all happened under the age of 18.
Okay. So
Like probably 17, 16,
Yeah.
junior year.
So
Yeah.
did they work on it in, like, did they because I'm sure he had a trial, right?
Right.
Did they try him as an adult, or did they as a minor? Okay, so that was kind of,
Good.
I guess, yeah, the
If there's
only
any
saving
good-
grace in this. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you feel like, did you guys have the conversations that I often try to like, maybe this happened for a reason. So maybe he learned a really important lesson, like nothing's ever truly private, and you have to be mindful of what you put out there. And just maybe that prevented him, later in life, like even if it's nothing to do with this, but like in marriage, perception is 9/10 of reality. Like, I mean, and so maybe
Truly.
it will help him just life lessons. Like your Chick Crew show, you try to do like a life lesson
Right.
part.
Right.
I think that's, I did you guys have conversations about that to kind of help like calm that, well, maybe this is preventing him from a loss later in life, and maybe this is a blessing in disguise, and, maybe he's doing better in school now because,
Well,
I don't know. Like, what did you?
I think the issue was, and I had to be very, very careful, because I found that every conversation I was having was revolving around that incident.
Oh,
so I
for
was
sure.
browbeating him subconsciously. I mean, seriously, it was subconscious, but I mean, it was like,
yeah,
if you hadn't done that, we could be doing this right now. If you hadn't done that, you'd be in the Marines right now. But Marines rejected him because they were like, ooh,
Yeah, I can't
this
have
is
that.
a lot of paperwork to do for this kid. Is he
Right.
worth it? And I
Yeah.
had to freaking pull some strings to get him. We got him in, and he's done great since then.
Good.
But to me, the life lesson was exactly what you said, that nothing is private, and that you
Yes.
have to have a filter. I mean, I understand you have feelings about things, or you have whatever, but social media
is
a
not a
very
safe place.
it's a very important place for a lot of people, employers,
Yes.
Yeah.
military people, law enforcement,
Ex-wives, ex-husbands,
everybody. I mean,
lawyers.
yes, it's your presentation. It's
yeah.
and so you have to be very careful.
Right.
And I
Agreed.
think the other thing was the filter. you know.
Yeah.
And I'm still discussing it to this day. There's still posts
We're
now.
discussing it right now.
No, with him.
Oh, really?
With him on social
Oh,
media.
okay,
In fact, we just
okay.
had an argument because it was
Really?
the three of us in the car. And, of course, my husband, now husband, defended him on this post. And I'm like, I'm sorry, inappropriate. Should
Right.
not be. I get it, intense emotion about this, but no.
Yeah.
No
Not.
bueno.
Yeah. So I mean, the question about, sorry, I itch, marriages, or you weren't even married. So when you're presented with this tough situation, and because you guys parent so different, I wonder, how did you guys get on the same page as far as you stepped out and you took the lead? And were you ever like, come on, boyfriend? Like, was that hard for you to be non-judgmental about how he was stepping up as the bio parent? And, because I think when tough situations arise with our children, how I would do things is very different than how it is done between him and his ex. They parent completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that, like, step in, let go, die on this hill, not
Right.
die on this hill, accept what, I mean, how did you do that dance in this tough situation?
It was a very disjointed dance.
Was it?
We argued intensely. It was very intense because I was like, why in the hell am I going through this right now?
Right.
I mean,
Did you feel
Just the
alone?
whole-
And did you feel alone?
I didn't feel alone, but I felt like I didn't deserve it. It was like more like it was more like a pity kick. Like, my kids are grown. There's no issues with them, and now
Yeah,
I'm
they were
dealing
out of
with
the
this,
house.
and then
yeah.
he's having a hard time dealing with it. And why am I right here in the middle of it? And then I took the lead because I'm a driver that way. That's what I do. But I was more about me. Like, why?
It's like unfair.
Why me? Yeah,
yes.
this is totally unfair to me right now. And it made me look at our relationship thinking, okay, I'm not doing this with him. There's just no way. It's just, but then again, I think the whole part about, I loved my stepson very deeply, and it was like, okay, this is a learning experience.
Well,
Yeah.
you had said also that his mom wasn't around for any of this and wasn't in the picture. Explain that dynamic, because it sounds more like you were mom in this situation than his own biological mother was.
Yeah, she was just not present. She was going through
Her own stuff.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, there was some mental illness, and she was going through her thing.
So you had to step up and be mom for this.
I felt like I needed to. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a calling.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was definitely an instinctual push for me. I knew that I had to
Interesting.
jump on that because I felt like it was gonna change the way he viewed women.
Yeah, and that's actually what I'm thinking about as you're saying that. Do you think that made an impact on the outcome where he is now in life? Because you said he's in the military now. He's
Right.
kind of fulfilled his dreams. I'm sure he's had a lot more hurdles and hoops to jump through to get there. But do you think by you stepping up and being, I mean, you weren't technically stepmom at the time, but you were. You played the role.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that made a difference, an outcome for him?
I think it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And again, that's not meant to be a pat on the back. I
No,
just
I'm
think that
asking. I
the
want to know
intention
that.
that I had was fulfilled.
Right.
In other words, what I did, because I had the feeling that it was going to influence him, and timing was impeccable,
Yeah.
and I think it worked very well. He's very well adjusted. He's so great about communicating, and it's been great.
Well,
yeah.
I'll say the reason I'm even asking that, though, is because a lot of people think that their role as a step parent is very minimal. They feel that exactly how you felt at the beginning.
Yeah.
Why me? This is unfair.
Right.
Why am I going through this?
And they do
Why do I
this.
have to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so many parents.
They brush it off and step back, and
Yep.
your show.
And you stepping in, but that just
Yeah.
this is kind of
It's
a
inspiring.
testament to how important it is as us as step parents or in the step parent role. We have friends, we have a lot of listeners that are in the role of a step parent, but not actually a step parent yet,
Mm-hmm.
And this shows that, it's it's not all fun and games. This isn't all dating.
No, there are no
and-
fun and games.
There's no fun.
I mean,
There's no
now,
game.
just now, I mean, 8 years. I mean, there's been some sprinkled intermittent fun and games, but
Yeah.
but I mean, literally now we're getting to see that with them being adults.
Yeah.
Now the rewards come.
Well, and it's an interesting thing because I talked about this a few weeks ago, but I'm reading the love languages of blended families.
Oh, they have a blended families one.
They do.
Because I got the teenager one when we were together.
So good. So there's a blended family one.
Yes.
So get it if you haven't. I will do a book review when I'm finished with it. But in that book, that it's like you have to. It takes 5 to 7 years to get to you feel, and blended. You and I were discussing before we came on air is a terrible word
Yes.
for this.
It is a terrible word.
It doesn't explain it. It's not blended. Everyone's like, well, I'm not blended. Well, no shit.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right.
not.
It's not a blend.
It's not a blend, but whatever. Here we are. It's the word that was deemed to these kinds of families.
Mhm.
But yeah, it takes like that 5 to 7 years, I think, to relax into something that it can evolve into something that feels a little more natural, a little more easy, a little more like that. Everybody wants that natural family feel
Yeah.
and that cohesiveness and that so it's interesting. Like you push through, you did your time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to see on the other side, like now there is the fun and some games and connections and blessings and
Well, I'm thinking about that because you're like, there is no fun. It's just
Well,
sprinkled in.
I'm being a little
But-
sarcastic.
No,
but
I know
yeah.
you are.
you? Because
I know
that's
you
where
are.
I'm at.
But
I'm like, I was
lot
feeling
of people,
that.
I know so many people feel like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you sit down and you're honest with yourself and you're like, because I think a lot of people question their paths.
Mhm.
They're like, did I take the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Was all of this worth it? At the end of the day, do you regret your path? Or are you like, I think I was meant to do this. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Number 2. Totally.
Yeah.
I totally think that's where I was meant to be.
Yeah.
And, again, out of love, I fell in love with their dad and I knew what came with that. Right. And yeah, we just navigate, and we're continuing to navigate through it with adult children. I mean, just like we said, it doesn't end,
And
there are challenges.
Let's go back to, you use a term browbeating and making it all about like that situation. And so everything was a consequence of like my life and your dad's life and our life is a consequence now
Mm-hmm.
of this decision
Mm-hmm.
that you made.
Right.
And so to get out of that spot eventually is hard. But then I'm wondering how that affects like other kids. Like, meaning when another kid has a mistake, is there a comparison going on between kids now of like, do we still compare? Like, because both, I mean, we do this, like,
We started a conversation.
Grace.
We
on
started
what-
a conversation the other night at dinner
gosh.
about one kid, and it completely turned into the other kid, and
Which
that's
is-
just where it stayed.
Right,
It's
right.
like, that's not what we were talking about. That's not what the
Right.
conversation was or the
Yeah.
subject.
But it does
And that's-
become like tit for tat. So now
There
you
you
have
go.
a child who has done something, and is there grace extended for a kid maybe having another issue? Because what I've learned, especially right now, we're going through some things with kids,
Mm-hmm.
particularly mine. But it is like they all have their own issues. And it's all in their own, it's all hard in their own little worlds. Like for one child, this issue is devastating.
Right.
But that issue is different from this child. And it's
Right.
hard not to get into this like, well, you extended grace here. So hello, it's
Right.
time
Right.
over here. Or why is it okay for someone to get, I don't know, the tit for tat thing. Because you do
we
have this
call
big
it the
thing.
tangential tit for tat conversation.
Oh.
We have it quite often in our household.
So how does it go? How do you get through
We
it?
spend a lot of money on therapy.
Do you?
Does it help?
Are you guys therapy?
Oh my gosh, we have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be divorced.
So what is the biggest takeaway you've gotten from therapy with the tit for tat so far?
It's typically not about what the kid is doing or not doing.
Okay,
It's
that's
about-
irrelevant.
It's about how we're dealing with it, how we're communicating it.
Your reactions.
Yes. It goes back to the consequence thing, the difference in parenting thing, the communication thing. I mean, it's just about the way we communicate. We allow ourselves to escalate the issue.
For sure. I see that.
Why are you looking at me
because
when
we're
she's
always-
talking about
because we're-
this? He's like staring at me. What is that?
Because that's what we're
Wait,
always
where's
talking
your
about.
back in the
We're always talking about
box?
2 weeks ago, man, on our podcast. That's what we were talking about. It's about that communication. I
Yeah.
always tout communication because that is truly the only way that Julie and I get back on the same wavelength about anything. It's not me shutting down and walking away. It's not
Right.
you talking to me in your bossy voice. It's not. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
us stopping, going, you know what, we're on the same team. We need to talk about this. We need to, while you're talking, I'm listening, and vice versa. And it's us getting that communication back in check. And that's
Yeah.
what makes everything better.
Well, but the tit for tat thing is really, really hard. And so, I don't know. Give me all the nuggets.
I have that's my kryptonite, I think, is that when it has to go to tit for tat, because I feel like he is treating his kids differently than he treats my kid about the same intensity issue.
Okay.
So we have to define, is it the same intensity? That's the first layer, right?
Right.
And we both say, yeah, it's the same. There's this little game we played, So would you say on the average of a scale of 1 to 5, you'd say that's about a 3? Yeah, I'd say it's about a 3. Okay, great. Okay, so we're both on the same page. All right,
Yeah.
now, so-and-so, and see, my stepson has the anchor as far as the
He's dug in.
issues. Yeah,
got-
he's scored really high on the, you really effed up, thing. So anyway, kid does X. We agree. It's this intensity, right?
Right.
And then the question is, okay, so we did this when this one did this intensity. So why are we not doing that for your kid at that same intensity? Well, I feel like I am. I'm like, well, you're not.
Right.
And there's no accountability. And then this is where I get, because I'm all about fairness for all, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you do
Yep.
something wrong and you do something wrong, then you both are going to get the same treatment. That's the way it works.
That's her singing voice here.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go ahead and beep that out for you. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
So that's probably now that's our big fight. If we're going to fight that, and we're working on de-escalating the intensity of it, because it is wicked. When we get into it, we're like two pit bulls, man.
I feel like you don't want
Because
to get
you're-
into a fight with Lisa. Like, she'll punch you out.
Well, I think though you're a mama dada bear. Like you do
For sure.
not like when we're talking about kids, that's a whole new level. When
Right.
you're talking about someone else's child, and there is that thing, like, I'm sorry,
is.
you're still, even though stepmom and stepdad and we love everyone and everything, it is like, do not talk about, like, that's still my kid.
Julie's very biased.
Well, and I gotta be honest with you, Julie. I'm
Are you not like that?
I'm not so much like that. I'm
Okay.
not biased about my kid.
I am.
Because
Sorry.
believe you
I
me,
need to work on that.
I've heard a lot about one of my kids from my husband.
Mm,
And granted, there's been some frustrating things that have been done or not done on
yeah.
on her end, and he gets extremely frustrated. And
Mhm.
so we have to have this conversation, right? And I'm like, yep, I got it. Nope, I totally understand.
Yeah.
She could have done that better. She could have done that, period. She shouldn't have done that, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But I think, what is it? Equal time for the crime, or equal, whatever it
Right.
is.
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh,
This is where
mine's wrong.
this is where I have the issue, because I think it's unfair. It's biased behavior, and
Yeah.
I have an issue with that.
Yeah, I wonder, I coach blended family people. And so one of the things that I get curious about with them, because the tit for tat thing is hard and it's everyone. So it's something that's universal. I think it's easy to do, in a trap we fall into.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why can't, and I don't know, I'm curious with people, like, why can't every child be their own person and each incident be isolated? And so what happens, like he was saying, when we talk and it starts off with one child and we end at another child, it's kind of like working on keeping it incident based only for this child, because I will say with discipline, even what works for one kid discipline wise doesn't work for the other kids. So fairness kind of does go out the window, because I can't discipline my son and my daughter the same.
Well, maybe what the key to this is then is you're right. Each kid gets treated
Based on
their situation and the incident that occurred.
And that, yeah.
But always consistently a consequence.
There,
whatever that consequence is defined as for that kid, for that incident.
right. What resonates with that child.
Right,
Because if I
right.
took away books from a child, take
Yeah.
away all my books. But a child who reads, is an avid reader, and you
Right.
take books away,
Right.
that's going to sting.
Right.
You know, and so it's kind of just like, I try to tell people that it's, you know, we need to focus on an incident in an isolated, kind of like a vacuum. I guess that's a bad way of putting it.
Vacuums suck.
Because really what happened with another kid,
Wah, wah.
Yeah,
You have a sound
dad
for that?
joke.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
no, he doesn't have buttons for himself.
I have my
only
own buttons.
me.
You want to hear?
Yeah.
Want to hear my own button? Here,
Oh
ready?
God,
A club where people wee on each other.
you heard that right. This is my life.
You guys
Okay.
want to hear that again?
Gonna
No.
come to a club where people wee on each other.
Okay.
This is my life.
That's about a 1. You have another button?
I probably do.
You have
Let's
a
see.
wah,
Let's see.
wah?
What else do we have?
You must love me exactly as I love you.
So maybe you don't want to
Greg.
know our buttons or his buttons. I have no
Oh, to
buttons.
press more buttons?
No. But thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for those
I
two.
don't know. But then it's like, you know, just everything else is off the table. We're dealing with this, and that's it. And that's it.
Yeah.
And we don't get to talk about
and the
anything
rules,
else.
You're right. And then the rules are, the boundaries are,
Right.
no other kids. Maybe that's what I should do too.
No other
No other
kids. Like, it
kids.
doesn't even matter, because what my stepdaughter did doesn't affect this situation. Like, what she did is its own thing, and this child is their own person, and let's get through this, and it doesn't matter what anyone else did. It
I know.
doesn't. I don't know. It's just
I
like
have to say that's a weakness for me, because I catch myself saying, and I know I say this a lot to him and it drives him nuts. You
Mhm.
know, I'm always saying what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
yeah. But comparison is a thief of joy.
It
And that is a saying for a reason
it is.
in all of life.
I know.
Because I'm, you know, if I'm always comparing myself to his brilliant looks, I'm always going to be really sad that
Oh
I
my
don't look so good. But it is.
But you're
And I
right.
think in step parenting that too, like we're comparing each other's children and each other's, you know, but even the kids don't have it fair, because their other house is different.
right.
So like our children's other homes are so different that their experiences they come back with are so different, and it's not fair.
No.
Like,
That's true. It's a very
it's-
good point.
like blended family is the farthest thing from fair. And I've
Right.
really, that's hard for me, because I'm the person at Christmas. All kids have to have the same amount spent. There's equal number of presents under the tree, so nobody feels like they got more. And he's like, his head explodes. Like, why can't we just buy the kids what they want? And if it's a little bit more for one kid, great. If a kid's happy with less, they're happy. The happiness is like
Why can't
whatever.
I ever win? Why
It's
can't I
relative.
ever win?
It's all relative.
Yeah.
No, that.
But
yeah.
it's interesting, because
Yeah.
it's hard. It's retraining.
Well, and also
brains
Julie
and-
comes from an only child situation, so
Oh my God.
she's
In a
very
way,
Like
only.
the
Why does-
worst thing. Like, he always brings us up. Like,
Well,
I'm
because
broken because I'm an only
I didn't say
child.
you're broken.
I
No,
was
no,
raised
no.
as an only child, and
Were
I
you?
had 3 siblings. Yeah, but because they were 9, 11, 13 years
So
older
you
than
didn't.
I was.
Yeah, you weren't
So I
raised
was
in the
raised-
same home.
That's
Basically
my
as
dad.
an
That's
only
my
child.
dad's. That's my dad's situation also.
And
Yeah.
I have a half sibling.
There you go.
Yeah, but
See?
will he admit it?
Whatever.
He loves you.
I don't. What tangent are you on right
yeah,
now?
tit for tatter.
Yeah, I know. I call it eye for an eye. This is her
Ah,
game, eye
yeah.
for an eye.
Yeah.
That gets played often.
He
But you
gets-
say that. I'm just going back to the hard conversation because I just want to be serious now. You say that this is still one of your struggles, but real quickly, how old are your kids again?
22, 25, 25, 29.
So they're all in their
20s.
20s, but you say one of your biggest problems right now, not biggest problems, but one of the things you guys argue the most about.
When you fight, it's about the kids.
Right. So it is one
Right.
of my biggest problems.
This shit never ends, really.
This is what I'm saying, though.
Okay,
They're
that's
in.
what
They're
I'm
all
Did
saying.
I
in the.
not say that in episode 1?
Well, I'm just like, it's hitting me like a ton of bricks. I'm
Okay,
like,
well.
I'm still on the beach with my fucking umbrella. stop raining on my day.
Oh
I'm
my
just
gosh,
kidding.
Yeah.
It doesn't end.
So how is this still your biggest problem? You know, with them being all at that age.
Because the eldest kid of the bunch,
Okay.
is actually living on a property with us.
Okay.
I mean, she doesn't live with us in the house.
Right.
She has her own space.
She has her tent out back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
2-man tent.
Yeah.
No, she has a very nice trailer, actually. Very
Nice,
nice
okay.
trailer. And because that's what's so cool right now, you know.
That's the thing.
Tiny
Yeah.
living.
It's
Lucky
a
her.
thing.
It's all about,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
and kitsch
But
stuff.
she has a son. So we have a grandson
Okay.
who's absolutely the apple of my eye.
Oh, I bet.
And but anyway, it's very interesting, and this is going to be turning into a very vulnerable conversation right now.
Okay.
So I'm acknowledging that right now because
Okay.
I'm about to go there. This is my issue. Okay, this is the now present issue. Is that you're right? They're all adults, so why would you still be arguing about
Yeah.
it? So on occasion, when let's say my daughter does something is expected of her, she doesn't do it, or whatever the
Right.
case may be. Somehow, the grandson gets attached to that, and so then the treatment of our grandson is different.
Then the kids.
And you want to talk about pissing me off?
Yeah.
That is not fair.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So let's talk about So that's what we're dealing with now. Is the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
So it's blended family grandparenting, all partially.
Yeah,
trying
and
to-
why does a
Kid.
grandkid
Mm.
have any part of that? They're innocent to me.
Yeah.
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 That's tough. That's a whole nother layer
Yeah.
of
You
life.
know, my husband's calling me right now. I'm wondering if he's watching, if he's
He's got
intuitively
the
knows
the
that's-
ESP.
Yeah,
He's like,
what's going
"What?"
on? Yeah,
I
it's
heard
making
what
me
you
very
said.
nervous.
yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I know somebody who's a step who has a grandchild, and there's a step grandpa, and he just hates being a step grandpa, and they're working through that. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't
Oh,
acknowledge and how do you not acknowledge a child? But not that this is your situation. I'm just saying, like, even when you think that, to your guys' point, this never ends, right? Kids grow up and then grandkids get introduced, and
Right.
I feel like you don't know how you're gonna feel or deal until you're in it.
Right.
So it's not even anything you can dream. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna be as a
Yeah, you can't project
grandparent,
it,
or
right.
even as a step grandparent. Like, are you gonna feel bonded and connected, or is it gonna, like, you don't?
Right.
You don't know.
Well, because that just becomes another layer of this blended family atmosphere. Like, for
Right.
instance, your parents and my parents treat our kids both very differently. Like our children are, and I don't know if it's ever really been an issue, but our kids are treated differently by each set of parents. So that being said, each grandparent or set of grandparents grandparent differently in our blended family. So it's just
Mhm.
another one of those
yeah.
added
And I'll
things
say
where-
it, like, my
Some of the
mom
nuance.
is really close to my kids, not so close to your children,
right.
like, at all. And
Mhm.
that's been hard.
Yeah, but then you do the eye for
That's
an
been
eye
hard.
thing, and then my mom, she's like,
Treats them all the same.
she's a lot like her. She wants them to all have the same amount of presents and the same price point, and they're
Mhm.
all, you know,
Do you
But-
see why children are highly overrated?
oh my,
you
I do.
understand now?
Well, it
Gosh,
just
man.
it carries on. And I will say, like, my mom even says, as a grandma, she's like, well, I've been with your kids since birth,
Mm-hmm.
since day one. I know them. We have a bond.
Right.
And it's like with your kids, it's not. Well,
It's
there's
not.
a lot of reasons, but you know, like, his daughter has never lived with us. So even when they have come over, she's there. They don't know his daughter really at all.
yeah, not much.
And I don't even know your daughter really that well at all, because she's just never been.
Yeah, she was close to
Around.
adulthood, and then now lives on
her
her
own.
own, and
So it's just, but there's all these that's what I'm talking about, all the variables, and everyone is valid. Like, my
Right.
mom is valid in her reasoning, even though
Right.
it may hurt and it may be like, well, I would do that different.
Right, right.
But her reasoning, when you sit down and talk up to her, it's super valid. Like, you
For
can't
sure.
make a heart feel something if there's no connection or opportunity for it. But you're expected to behave in such ways that alludes to
fits in your
equality.
box.
And the same with, like, you know, and it's hard, but everyone has like their own valid map where they're operating out of, even if it causes conflict, I would say.
I have a hard time with this one.
Yeah,
really do.
I know.
Because my
It's
grandson is the bread end of it now, and I
That's unfair,
understand.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. I agree.
I mean,
I don't disagree with that,
I feel,
actually.
yeah, and it's a struggle. I don't know where to go with it. So what I did instead was I said, okay, listen, you're off the hook. You're off the hook. But I want to spend time with him. I want to spend time every minute with him that I can.
Right.
And so, if I want to take him somewhere, I mean, obviously I'll invite you to go, but
You not going isn't going to stop me.
you not going is not
I
going to
love
stop. I'm
that.
still going to do my thing.
And that is how you were with his daughter.
Right. Because it's for my own sanity. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my shit.
Right. And destroy probably a marriage.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Completely.
So this is
Completely,
you
'cause I don't-
protecting your marriage out of love, actually.
But I got to tell you, it's hard. I have my days where I judge him on this.
Sure.
And I have to really
You're
be
human.
careful.
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
what I was
but
about
have
to say.
be
You're
careful.
human.
Like,
that's how we do.
We live
but
in judgment.
but
yeah.
training ourselves to not live in judgment or extend grace or
Or eye on the prize.
yeah, all of it.
And
Or
what's
she
the
just
prize
said
again?
there's she said there's
I
no
get
prize.
quality time
Yeah.
with my grandson.
Oh,
Yeah, you get
That's
quality time and you have an intact marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, because we could have blown up our marriage.
10 minutes ago. No, it was about 25 at
But
this
really,
point.
like at the end of the day, it's that, am I going to die?
Right.
Is our marriage going to die on this hill?
Right.
Right.
Or are we going to kind of like are we going to like try to figure out a way where
Yeah.
it's
it works.
okay?
Right.
And this is like, I don't know on the others, because here's really cool. Like there's going to be the other side of this. Just
Right.
like there was the other side of your stepson and his thing there,
Mhm.
and eventually you're going to be on the other side of this. And it's going to be interesting to keep in mind that on the other side of everything is goodness.
Right. Right.
What that looks like is unimaginable, maybe.
Right. Right. Right.
But
Because I think if we start from love
yes.
for the kid,
Yes.
whatever kid, whomever it is,
So smart.
if we start from there,
Yes.
it's a win-win,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So when we were talking about this, and you guys are talking about all the different, just for lack of a better term, tangential relationships, right? So you've got the grandparents now. We superimpose the grandparents on it, right?
Right.
Yes.
So your parents treat the blended family differently than your parents treat the kids, right?
Yes.
And as you guys are talking, my perspective went right to the kids, and I'm thinking, okay, so these kids are going back and forth to parents' households, and then
Yes.
when the grandparents get superimposed,
Right.
then they're treated different. I mean, what a mind.
Yep.
F.
Here, I'll just blast it
Thank
for you.
you.
There it goes. There it is.
Seriously, I mean, I'm thinking about the kids, how
Yeah.
they process this,
Oh, I
like how
know.
they feel accepted, how they feel loved,
Well,
how
and
they feel.
they all process it differently. Like for instance, my son calls the other grandparents by their first names. Her daughter, I think for the most part, calls them by their first names or grandma and grandpa and then their first names. And then her son calls them grandma and grandpa. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my daughter calls my parents grandma and grandpa and hers by their first name. So it's all it's a big dynamic of just differentness because they're all, even though they're all in the same situation, they're all having their own experiences.
Right, exactly, because
You
they're
know?
all individuals. And
Yeah.
I think to myself, how do they process that? And I'm not talking about just calling who what. I'm talking about how do they process the different demonstrative or lack of
Right.
demonstrative love from grandparents, that extra layer. I mean, it's just so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with parents, you know,
Right.
absent parents and parents who relinquish custody, like how in the hell do you not want to see your children? Like that blows my mind. I could
Indeed.
not imagine,
I'm
but
with you
there's
on that one.
so many parents
too.
who are like,
Later.
this is too hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kids they don't have a say in that,
Right.
and it is like the consequence of feeling abandoned on some level.
Right.
Whether it's for self-betterment or self-growth on the other parent's part or whatever it is, like
Right.
saying goodbye is abandonment,
Right.
literally by definition.
Right.
And I totally agree. There was recently we were at church And our pastor said, pose the question that in each situation you're to ask yourself, and you're going to like this, what does love require of me right now? So every situation you're in, I'm like, that is so cool, because sometimes like love is a choice and love is a verb. So it's not a feeling. Right. So it's like in every situation, and maybe that's how you isolate situations instead of tit for tat. Like in this situation with this child, we need to ask ourselves, what does love require of us now? Nothing else matters. Nothing else is open for discussion. Right. We're talking about you and me and this child right now, and what does love require of us? Because if it is all about love, and that's where we're operating out of, let's get to the nitty gritty on what that is.
Right.
Can we get rid of the kid making an action word?
Such a dude.
I'm with
you have holes on this table.
Yeah.
You have lots of holes on this table.
Splinters.
Anyway.
Ouch.
Well, this has been interesting. This is a fun conversation. We'd love to have you back on the show.
Love to come back.
I feel like she's full of so much knowledge from a different perspective than you or I are at, and
well, I don't know about that,
but very relatable to everyone. So
yeah,
if you guys enjoyed this and liked this, please comment. If you have any questions for Lisa, write into us, or just go find her on the Chick Crew, and they're right here on YouTube. We're gonna put link to their page down below. Her and Joni are just a ton of fun. And we're still getting our groove. We're getting going, but you guys are going to see it immediately. You're going to be like, this is fun. These chicks are fun. Mm-hmm. So,
and also I want to point out before we close out, it takes a lot for, and I'm getting all listening. Okay. It takes a lot for anyone to come on a podcast or a YouTube series and be vulnerable and open up and share their story. So I would also ask that you guys extend grace. If you didn't love this, that's fine. If you disagreed, cool. But maybe you just click and move on, and not, especially with Eric and I, whatever. But when we have guests on, I'm asking our audience to just be gracious and kind and leave those great, encouraging comments, and then keep nasty ones to yourself. I want to be protective of guests that come on our show and not open up. So if you didn't love it, that's fine. Don't recommend it. Don't subscribe. Move past it. But don't make unnecessary hate or negative comments, please, especially about someone who's so wonderfully coming on and sharing her life. That's already,
Did you have fun?
I had fun.
Did you?
Good. That's not even a proper.
That's not the right word.
There is no fun.
There is no fun.
Blended family.
No. I had way fun. It was just not grammatically correct the way I said it. Definitely had a great time.
What did you call it? Grammarist?
I'm a grammarian.
Grammarian.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes.
Arr.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thank you. Like, subscribe, leave those comments, and we'll be back next week.
Nice comments. Bye.